you did the Upwork thing, you branched out of that. You're now at this job at Plaid. So if we're talking, your career span, it feels like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like this happened pretty quickly in terms of like looking at it retrospectively from not knowing what presentation design is to now being the only presentation designer in a successful company like Plaid, or I don't know if they're still in unicorn status or what where they're at, but I'm definitely familiar with them. So what is that like scope? How long was that in can you speak a little bit to that journey?
So I graduated in 2013, and I worked a couple of years as an architect. So I stopped rip architecture career in 2015,
Yeah.
and so that's when I transitioned into the first job that like took me to the first step of presentation design. And so that was in 2015 up until now. So that's what 8 years, I guess, almost 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was 2 years at that business consultancy, the real estate development consultancy, and
Mm-hmm.
then a few, like almost 6 months at the startup that I worked with, one of the consultants, and then
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years freelancing on like Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
Then after Upwork, just doing it without Upwork, and then I worked a year and a half at a company called Mach 49, which was also
Mm-hmm.
it's like startups but with a different lens. It was basically for corporate ventures, which are like startups that are
Mm-hmm.
within corporate companies. um,
Okay.
and then so I also like developed my skills there, and then currently I've been at Plaid for almost a bit over 6 months.
It seems like just a flash in the pan in terms of transitioning your career entirely to an industry that you didn't know existed.
Mm,
Like that to me just sounds wild because it's understandable if you're going to be an architect and then you transition and you want to be a doctor or something. Like that career path, all the stuff you have to do ahead of time before you make that jump, and that journey. But with presentation design, it was just so unexpected the whole time, and you're just discovering it as you go, as you go, as you go. And to be able to discover it and then do it and then be successful, and then now you're legit at the company you're at, and as the only presentation designer, like that to me is just it's overnight. And I think that's what I love about this field is that it's so possible. You don't need specific credentials. You don't need a degree. You don't need any of these background things to be good at being a presentation designer. It's just like what I said in the beginning of, do you have that fundamental, foundational kind of similar logic we all kind of have in how we think, and we have that analyst side and that creative side. And if you realize those things in yourself, you can be a presentation designer and you can just start to research design, learn how to put some things together, find out what your taste is, and spot that out everywhere you go and everything you look at. And like this career is just here waiting for people. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I think anyone can be a presentation designer. They just have to like learn the skills, and obviously they have to, like, if they have the aptitude for it, I think they can be.
That perseverance too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you. Is there anything, any last comments or anything you want to end on, or any questions or outlooks or thoughts on the year ahead? Since we're in January now for another roller coaster of a year ahead, I'm sure.
Sure. I have a thought. Just looking back, I feel like you can. This is very corny or like, but the quote that says like you can always connect the dots looking back, but you can never
Oh yeah,
connect them looking forward, or whatever the
yeah.
quote is. I feel like that really feels true in my case. It hits home because I feel like I was unsure of how things were going to work out, and I had like that north star of doing something meaningful. And
Hmm.
presentation design sort of came along the way, and it wasn't necessarily something that I had in mind. But looking back, I'm every step of the way had took me closer towards my goal of doing something more meaningful.